The year was 1541. Along the banks of a wide, uncharted river, armored men stared in awe at the rushing waters before them. It was not the Ganges or the Nile, nor the Amazon or the Danube. It was something no European had ever seen before. A river so vast it seemed like an ocean. This was the Mississippi River, and the man leading the weary soldiers to its shores was Hernando de Soto, a Spanish conquistador whose ambition and hunger for glory had already carried him from the jungles of Central America to the gold-rich lands of Peru. De Soto was no ordinary soldier. He was a man who rose from obscurity to become one of the wealthiest conquistadors of his age. He helped topple empires, seized unimaginable treasures, and became governor of Cuba. Yet his story is also one of restless ambition, betrayal, disease, and death far from home. His quest to conquer and claim lands in what is now the United States brought him fame, but it also left destruction and tragedy in its wake. This is the story of Hernando de Soto, a man of courage and cruelty, determination and arrogance, whose name would forever be tied to the early exploration of North America. Hernando de Soto was born around 1500 in the small town of Jerez de los Caballeros, in the rugged region of Extremadura, Spain. Extremadura was a land of poverty and hardship, but it was also the birthplace of many conquistadors, including Francisco Pizarro and Vasco Núñez de Balboa. Growing up in this environment, young Hernando learned early that the surest path to fortune lay not in farming or trade, but in conquest overseas. His parents, of modest nobility, could offer little in wealth but much in ambition. As a boy, Hernando showed a fiery spirit and a keen intelligence. Restless and eager for more than a life in rural Spain, he set his sights on the New World, where rumors of gold and glory spread like wildfire. In 1514, still a teenager, Hernando de Soto sailed with Pedro Arias Davala's expedition to the New World. The fleet carried more than 2,000 people to the Spanish colonies in Panama. Life in the colonies was brutal, filled with disease, dangerous climates, and conflict with indigenous peoples. But for men like De Soto, it was also a land of opportunity. Over the next 2 decades, De Soto built a reputation as a daring horseman and ruthless fighter. He gained experience in campaigns across Central America, where the Spanish sought to expand their control and seize wealth. He quickly proved himself skilled not only in combat, but also in negotiation and survival. His ambition pushed him into the circles of men who would shape the history of conquest. De Soto's fortunes took a sharp turn upward when he joined Francisco Pizarro in the campaign against the Inca Empire in Peru in the early 1530s. The Spanish invasion of Peru was one of the most dramatic episodes of the Age of Conquest, and De Soto was in the thick of it. He became one of Pizarro's trusted captains and was present at the infamous Battle of Cajamarca in 1532, where Pizarro captured the Inca Emperor Atahualpa. De Soto's role in the conquest brought him riches and influence. When the ransom of Atahualpa was paid in rooms filled with gold and silver, De Soto received a substantial share, transforming him from a poor adventurer into a wealthy man. By the mid-1530s, Hernando de Soto had become a celebrated conquistador. His share of the Inca treasure made him one of the wealthiest men of his generation. He returned briefly to Spain, where his newfound fortune allowed him to live like a nobleman. In 1537, he married Isabel de Bobadilla, a woman of high birth and influence. Isabel was the daughter of Pedro Arias Davala, the powerful governor of Panama who had originally brought De Soto to the New World. Their marriage cemented De Soto's social standing, and Isabel's political connections gave him a powerful ally. Yet Hernando was restless. Wealth and comfort were not enough. He craved more, greater titles, more riches, and everlasting glory. In 1537, De Soto was appointed governor of Cuba by King Charles V of Spain. The position brought him prestige and responsibility. From Havana, he oversaw trade, defense, and administration. Isabel, his wife, ruled in his absence with intelligence and strength, earning respect in her own right. But Cuba was not Hernando's final destination. For years, rumors had circulated of a wealthy kingdom somewhere to the north of Mexico. Inspired by tales of gold-laden cities like Cibola, Hernando secured royal permission to lead an expedition into these unknown lands. In 1539, Hernando de Soto launched his most ambitious venture, an expedition into North America. With over 600 men, horses, priests, artisans, and slaves, de Soto sailed from Havana to the Gulf Coast of Florida. His aim was simple but grand: conquer new lands for Spain and uncover the riches he believed lay hidden in the heart of the continent. Landing near present-day Tampa Bay, de Soto's men set out on foot and horseback into the wild interior of Florida. What followed was one of the most arduous and devastating expeditions in the history of the Americas. De Soto's expedition carved a brutal path across the American Southeast. Over the course of 4 years, they marched through modern-day Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, and Arkansas. The journey was marked by hunger, disease, and constant battles with indigenous peoples. De Soto demanded food, labor, and guides from the native tribes, often taking what he wanted by force. Villages were burned, and thousands of indigenous people were killed or enslaved. Yet the Spaniards found no gold, no great cities of wealth like those in Mexico or Peru. Instead, they faced swamps, forests, and resistance from determined native communities. In 1541, near present-day Mississippi, de Soto and his men reached the banks of a massive river unlike anything they had ever seen. It was the Mississippi River, though they did not call it that at the time. For Europeans, this was a momentous discovery, proof of the vast and mysterious lands that lay beyond their maps. De Soto hoped the river might lead him to riches or trade routes, but it only deepened the challenges. Crossing the river with their horses, equipment, and dwindling supplies was a dangerous feat. Still, the conquistador pressed onward, refusing to admit defeat. De Soto's determination became his curse. Despite his men's exhaustion and the growing realization that no great empire lay hidden in the southeast, he refused to turn back. Pride and ambition drove him forward, deeper into uncharted territory. By 1542, his expedition had shrunk drastically. Disease, starvation, and battles had taken their toll. The dream of riches had evaporated, replaced by a grim struggle for survival. In May 1542, Hernando de Soto fell ill with fever near the banks of the Mississippi River. His body, worn from years of hardship, could no longer endure. On May 21st, he died at the age of around 42. Fearing that the native peoples would see his death as a sign of weakness, his men buried him secretly in the river at night, sinking his body in the waters of the Mississippi. Thus ended the life of one of Spain's most ambitious conquistadors, far from his homeland, and without the wealth he had sought so desperately. After de Soto's death, the remnants of his expedition, reduced to a fraction of their original force, struggled to find their way home. Eventually, they built boats and floated down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico, returning to Spanish settlements in Mexico. The expedition was considered a failure by the Spanish crown. It had brought no riches, established no colonies, and left behind a trail of devastation among native tribes. Yet, it had revealed the vastness of North America and cemented de Soto's place in history as one of the first Europeans to explore the interior of the modern-day United States. Hernando de Soto's legacy is complicated. To Spain, he was once celebrated as a bold explorer who expanded the known world. To many in the Americas, he is remembered as a brutal invader whose expedition brought suffering and destruction to indigenous communities. Yet his journeys contributed to Europe's understanding of the North American continent. His discovery of the Mississippi River became one of the defining moments of early exploration. De Soto's name lives on in counties, cities, rivers, and landmarks across the United States, a reminder of the conquistador whose restless ambition carried him farther than most dared to go. Facts about Hernando de Soto. Hernando de Soto was born in Extremadura, Spain, the same region that produced conquistadors like Pizarro and Cortés. He first sailed to the Americas as a teenager in 1514. He became wealthy after helping conquer the Inca Empire in Peru. De Soto married Isabel de Bobadilla, the only woman ever appointed governor of Cuba. He brought the first known group of horses into the territory of the modern-day United States. His expedition was the first recorded European crossing of the Mississippi River. De Soto's men secretly buried him in the river to hide his death from native peoples. He expected to find gold and silver in North America but never did. His expedition covered more than 4,000 miles through the American Southeast. Places named after him include De Soto County, Mississippi, and De Soto National Memorial in Florida. Hernando de Soto's life was one of contradictions, rising from poverty to unimaginable wealth, yet dying without the riches he sought, celebrated for his courage, yet condemned for his cruelty. He embodied the restless spirit of the age of conquest, where ambition drove men to cross oceans, topple empires, and carve their names into the maps of the world. His journeys remind us of the cost of ambition, the clash of cultures, and the enduring human desire to discover what lies beyond the horizon. Standing at the banks of the Mississippi today, one can imagine the armored Spaniards gazing across its waters for the first time, and the man who led them, Hernando de Soto, whose restless quest carried him into history.